Welcome to this mobility practice for any time throughout your cycle. So, this is one of those rest day practices that you can use to complement your strength training, to create relaxation, and to promote recovery in the body. So, this is a great way to kind of take movement during your off days to still show up consistently so that you're not falling out of your movement rhythm on days where you're not hitting the weights. I'm coming to you on day 25 of the 26-day cycle. So that really shows that you can do this throughout your cycle. I'm in kind of that trickiest part of that, the menstrual transition where hormones are dropping, energy levels a little bit lower, but this hit it just right. This felt like it was creating space and flow throughout the body. So it's a great one to help clear energetic stagnation. It can be a great one to use during the last few days or the first few days of each cycle to help create that healthy flow. So today we have two sections of the practice. The first one is dynamic mobility. We'll be in that flow for about 20 minutes. And then the second part of the practice is static stretching. So we'll be holding each posture for around 2 minutes, and that'll be about a 10-minute part of the practice. So that'll help really facilitate relaxation and recovery at the end. The 10 exercises that we're using are dynamic mobility. So we're moving, we're flowing through many of these kind of deeper ranges of motion. So I encourage you to move slowly, to kind of calibrate the breath to the movement, to map that movement onto your breath. And please tune into the preview that's linked in the description of this video below. It's a separate video that will guide you through each movement pattern. Some of these are a little bit on the advanced side, so advanced mobility. And if you're still working, maybe you're new to mobility practice and you have tight ankles, tight shoulders, maybe tight hips or knees, you can get the progressions for these different movement patterns. So ways to kind of scale them back and get a different entry point so that you can still be working on your mobility no matter where you are on the continuum of this practice. So I encourage you to tune into that. It's also a great way just to kind of understand what the exercises are. Sometimes my way of naming things might not be super familiar to you. So you can look at the workout breakdown and then connect that, kind of get a visual of each exercise in the workout preview. It's a great way if you're working out on your own, or maybe you want to tune in to your own music without the guided video. Use that preview. It's a shorter video that you can kind of just speed through and get the exercises so that you know what we're doing before you get started. This one doesn't have a separate warm up or a cool down. We're staying right around that 50% level, kind of your warming mode the entire way through. So it should feel really gentle and really easeful as you close up the practice. You can always stay in a short meditation at the end, just paying attention to your breath and your body, and really do what serves you best with this practice. Now let's get started. Let's begin our 30-minute mobility practice for today. All you will need is your body weight and then a comfortable place to move around. So something that has a little bit of cushion so that your knees and body are comfortable when we are in more prone, grounded positions. We have a 20-minute dynamic mobility session, and then we'll close it out with some longer holds in static stretches. So really open up the hips and the shoulders. We have our 50-second working interval with a 10-second transition interval. So we're looking to stay pretty continuous with our movement throughout. The intensity is low. You can move as quick or as slow as you'd like. I am in the days leading up to my period, so you'll see me moving very slowly with that deep, conscious breath. I'll get our timer started. We have about 20 seconds to get ready for our first movement pattern. We're just coming into a deep squat with a rotation. So for this one, I want you to let your stance be pretty generous. So you're wider than hips width distance. Your toes can turn slightly out. I want you to keep your spine nice and upright. We're going to lower down into that deep squat. If your heels lift and you want to sit on the ground, you can. You can be in a grounded position here and just take the feet a bit wider. Then we're simply going to rotate open to one side, keep the shoulders nice and relaxed. Press that opposite hand into the inner knee, inner thigh to open it up. We'll be here for half of the interval and then we'll switch sides. So again, you can have the sits bones grounded if you like. Take a seat and just take the same shape, switch sides, but from a seated position. If you're still working on that ankle mobility, you want to keep the feet as close to your body as you can tolerate so that you are still working on that ankle mobility, but you can be on the seat if that feels better. Next up, we're going to switch to a tabletop. So get ready to transition that way, and let's switch. So we'll come on to hands and knees. Shoulders are over the wrists. Hips are directly over the knees. We're just going to come into a nice deep lunge. So bring your right foot, step it outside your right hand, come into that deep lunge, lift the chest, feel the broadening across the inner thighs, and come back, switch sides. So lunge forward, lift your chest up, press down into the floor, and exchange. You can even come into kind of a mini child's pose there if you like to get more flow, more of that rhythmic quality. Coming back, step it forward. Nice and wide, so you should feel a little bit of that hip stretch, inner thighs, even the hip flexor on the back leg, and connecting to your breath all the while. So inhaling as you come back, exhaling through that deep lunge. We're here for just a few more seconds, and then we're going to hold the lunge on the right side. So bring your right foot forward. I want you to kind of shorten the stance a little bit. You can have your knee a little bit forward of the toes if that feels good. We're going to take the hands behind the head, lift up through the spine. And then as you exhale, take that opposite elbow to opposite knee. Come back. So I want you to fix the back foot to the floor so you have that stability in the legs. And the position of the lower body is fixed, and we're allowing the rib cage to wrap around the spine. So we're freeing the upper back here. We'll be here for about 20 more seconds. You can even kind of do the counter twist if you wish. So as you come up, kind of rotating to the open side, just really looking to mobilize the upper back here. We're here for just about 5 more seconds. Feel that freedom in the upper spine, shoulders stay relaxed. And now we'll bring both hands down, come back to your tabletop. Again, position the shoulders directly over the wrists, tone the low belly. Coming into scapular push-ups here. So I want you to lower the chest and then round the upper back. Notice the position of the low spine. It's not changing. We're keeping this all in the shoulder blades. So I want you to feel that articulation around the shoulder blades. So you let them come up and then round, separate. So they come close together and then they separate. So I want you to feel that depression of the chest and then really press through the hands. You can even add a little bit of rounding in the upper back, like you're trying to spread your wings. We're just creating more range of motion. So it's like you're plugging the upper arm bone into the shoulder and then reaching it out. Again, lower back, not curling here. It's all in the upper back. We're going to come into our lunge on the second side now. So you can bring your left foot forward, hands behind the head, finding that T-spine release once again. So we twist, bring the elbow to the opposite knee and come back up. Twist, reach, and come back up. I want you to focus on keeping both sides of the waist nice and long here. So I don't want you to feel any crunch in the neck or the spine. Everything stays nice and long. You're reaching the crown of the head forward. And again, your back leg super strong, pressing down. Breathe in and out. So feel that little bit of coiling action in the belly as you wrap your right low ribs underneath you to release the rib cage, free the upper spine. We're here for under 10 more seconds. And then we're going to come into a high lunge next. 2 and 1. So as we transition, you'll bring your hands to the inside of your left foot, this time stepping that back knee up. So lifting that back knee up. I want you to bring your back foot flat. Take the arms in a big arc and come over your right knee. You can be in a high side lunge or all the way to your Cossack squat. So if you're in that one, your heel is down, opposite toes are up, your bent knees, that foot is turning slightly out. Then we're going to come back into the lunge, step it back, exchange through that launch position, right foot to the outside, back heel flat. We arc up like we're coming into warrior 2. And then we lower into either that high side lunge or all the way to your Cossack squat. This one, a little bit more complex, so just take your time flowing through. So imagine you're setting up for warrior 2 and then coming in. Let's take it back down from here. I want you to step into your lunge. You're going to step the back shin underneath you. So step that back shin in, and then you turn it at an angle. You're going to come down to a seat, either supported or unsupported. You roll back, switch the legs, come forward into your lunge. So again, some of these movement patterns might take a few rounds to get it into your body, but we roll it forward and come back. So I'm showing the unsupported version here, but you could always have your hands on the floor helping you through each stage as you come down into that dragon sit and back through the roll. You can let your knees come over your toes here. We really want to feel that stretch across the pelvic floor. Your arms are by your sides as you roll back. Roll it forward. So this first round especially might feel just like a little bit of a getting used to. You're getting used to all of these movements. Now we're coming into our bear to a twist and sit. So come into your bear plank, cover the knees. Then I want you to rotate on the toes, bring that bottom leg straight and sit down. Come back through your bear plank, twist and sit down. You got it. So you're pivoting on the toes, you're letting that bottom leg stretch out. You can even bring the top arm open, get a little bit of a chest stretch, almost like you were loading a bow and arrow, pulling it back. And breathe. So again, I'm moving super slow in the menstrual phase. If you're in your follicular or even ovulatory phase, and this is your rest day, you might be enjoying that slow pace, or maybe just moving a little bit more quickly, maybe adding a little bit more intensity with the effort and come down. Next up, we're coming into our shin box. So you can start in a seated position, take both knees to one side, and you're in the zigzag shape. We'll lift up. I want you to take your back hand behind you and reach. Come down either with your hands behind or unsupported. Switch, keep the feet grounded. We lift into that shin box, back hand down, and reach. Don't worry if your back hand doesn't touch down to the ground. You can reach for your lower back or anywhere that feels good with that reach. Can even just be kind of the intention of reaching back. But I want you to keep the lower back nice and long through this movement pattern. We're focusing on that hip flexor stretch. We're here for about 10 more seconds. Come down through center, up and reach. Next up, we're going to find our downward facing dog. So this one, be pretty generous with your stance. You can have the feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. We're going to take one leg up, reach, stack the hips, open, nice and steady. Keep the shoulders square, and then release. Exchange sides. Other leg comes up, open, and twist. So here we're allowing the pelvis to twist while the rib cage stays stable. So we're facilitating that rotation in the lower body, fixing the position of the shoulders and ribs. Opening nice and easy here, up and around. So we have one more exercise of our first round, and we'll complete all of these one more time before coming into our static stretching. From here, we're going to lower all the way onto the belly. Make sure you have some room to either side to extend your arms out into a T. So arms to T, you can take your right ear to the mat. Then I want you to bend your left knee, roll to the side, tap your left toes behind you. And then switch, left ear to the mat, right knee bends, roll and tap. So I want you to feel that. Again, we are facilitating rotation in the hips, and we're keeping those shoulders grounded. So I want your shoulders not to pop up off the floor, and that may mean that you don't tap with the toes. They might not reach without lifting the shoulders. So I want you to prioritize that position in the upper body, keeping those shoulders nice and grounded. Breathe here. You can keep your head on the mat. I'm lifting mine slightly just to preserve the sound quality here. And rest. Press yourself up. That is round one. We have those 10 exercises one more time through. So starting with the squat, deep squat. If you're seated, you're here opening to one side, or you're in the full squat, taking that opposite arm down, opening through the heart and chest. Breathe here. So you might feel some pressure in the abdomen in kind of this partially bound posture. So I want you to really exercise the breath. Let's switch sides, opposite hand down and twist. Notice the position of the shoulders. Can you relax them down the back? Keep your heels grounded, whichever variation you're taking. You might free the neck by just allowing the chin to move side to side so that you're not holding onto any tension there. And then we'll slowly transition to tabletop. So we have the hands under the wrists. We're going to step one foot forward into your lunge. Nice deep lizard stretch. Lift the heart and come back. Switch and exchange. So you can move a little bit more quickly this time now that you know what's coming. And again, if you want, you can bring your hips toward your heels through that transition. Get a wider range of motion. 50 seconds is probably a little bit quick for some of these dynamic mobility drills, especially the ones that have more than one component. But I want you to use what you can. Don't worry if you only get a few reps. Taking it nice and slow is a-okay. So the next foot that is forward, we'll keep that lunge. Bring the hands behind the head. I want you to lift up out of the hips, telescope the rib cage, and then we twist. So elbow to opposite knee and come up. Anchor your back foot, top of the back foot down. Really press through the big toe side and the pinky toe side. Twist and come up. So I want you to feel the elongation of the sides of the waist. That gives you more room to rotate when you have that length in the spine. Come through center and twist. Nice big breath here. Should be slow and steady, so we're keeping that heart rate right around 50%. Might get a little bit higher if you pick up the pace, but certainly in the luteal and menstrual phases, we're wanting to keep things nice and low. And this is a recovery practice. Come into tabletop once again. So we want to keep things nice and low. We're not looking to create an elevated stress response. Scapular push-ups, let's go. Take the chest down, squeeze these shoulder blades, and then broaden them apart, round into the upper back. Press through your hands. So neck is neutral, low spine is neutral. The only movement happening is in that upper back. So it's like a mini cat-cow spine here, where you're allowing the upper back to soften and then broaden those shoulder blades. Press down through the hands. Breathe. This should feel so good for the upper back. Can create more range of motion, better posture when we know how to articulate these structures and let them work. Here, just a few more seconds, then we'll come into that low lunge once again. So this time bringing the opposite foot forward. Again, lift up through both sides of the waist, soften the shoulders, hands behind the head. Let's begin with our twist. Here we go. Twist and come back up. So you might even take that opposite elbow up, down, and around to create this beautiful arc. Try to find the stability in the legs and the freedom in the rib cage, the freedom in the spine. You're using the head to press into the hands. That can help keep the back of the neck neutral and long. You've got the tail slightly curled under, so you might feel a little bit of that hip flexor awakening in the back leg. Last 3, 2, and 1. We're setting up next for the high lunge. And remember, from this one, we're transitioning to our side lunge or a Cossack squat. So back heel turns flat, like you're coming into warrior 2, but then you come down, bend that back knee, transition back to your lunge and exchange. So we switch sides, turn that back heel flat, and just transfer the weight from the front to the back. Again, if the Cossack squat isn't quite yet in your practice, that's okay. You can be in that high side lunge. Just find some rhythmic flow in the arms here. Take what you need. I want you just to find that fluidity in the hips. Explore the range of motion. Let's get the other side to keep it even. And rest. Next up, we come into our dragon sit. So you can keep one foot forward, bring the back shin in. Again, you can support yourself as you come back, roll the legs, arms by your sides, and transfer forward into that nice deep lunge. And you keep that kickstand in the shin as you come through that low lunge. You can bring the knees over the toes for this one, looking to create that mobility and range of motion in the knee. And again, as you roll back, let your hands support you by your sides, so you're not putting too much pressure on the neck. We'll be here just about 10 more seconds. Roll it forward and come back. And rest. Our bear twist is next. So you're coming into that bear plank position, and we're simply going to twist side to side. So hover the knees and pivot on the toes. Come to a full seat and then back through center. Send that leg through, stretch the chest open, come back through center. So I want you to be as upright as you can in the spine. So you're sitting up nice and tall as you send that bottom leg underneath you out straight to the side, pulling that opposite fist toward the shoulder to get that added chest stretch. This one always helps you feel a little bit more grounded and a little bit just graceful, like you have this incredible range of motion, this way of moving your body that feels very natural. And rest. Next up, we come into our shin box. So both knees pointing to one side, your shins are down, feet stay grounded. Let's lift it up. Take that back arm behind you, the back leg arm reaches overhead. As you twist or as you switch, keep your feet down, they stay grounded. Back arm down, and we stretch. Reach it up, take it back. So I want you to really press that back hip forward as you come into that reach. So it's always the inside leg that has the arm reaching. Might even support the lower spine. That can feel really good as you come into that gentle back bend. Can help you really stretch that hip flexor. And slowly come down. We're coming into our downward dog next. Get ready, send the hips up and back, heels grounded, bring the feet together. Inhale, send your right leg up. Keep the shoulders where they are, bend and open your right hip. And then slowly exchange. So let's not be in a rush for this one. Take it nice and slow. Really find that square position in the shoulders. Press down and forward with all 10 finger pads. Lengthen the crown of the head toward the thumbs and your shoulder blades toward your hips, so they're moving up the spine in this inverted position. Really lengthen the backs of the legs here, sides of the waist, So we're kind of expanding the energetic body in all directions. Let's get one more on the other side. And then slowly come through center. We're going to take the knees down, lower all the way onto your belly. Again, creating enough space so you have room to bring the arms out to T. So come all the way down, get that nice T shape in the arms, press your palms flat. So you bring your right ear to the mat, that means the left knee bends, and we just open, tap the toes behind. Bring the hips down and switch. So again, here I want you to focus on grounding the shoulders. So one shoulder is going to want to pop up. I want you to resist that and really kind of send the rotation into the lower back and pelvis here. You might find that one side is easier to get to, and that's natural. You might have one side with the lower back that's a little tighter. And we just move side to side here. Reach and transition. Just a few more seconds here. And then we will slowly, nice and easy, start to lift your body up. We're going to start our next section of the workout. I'll get a timer going for us. So in this one, we have each stretch we're going to be holding for 2 minutes. So it seems like a long time, but once you're in the stretch, I have a feeling that you'll want to stay even longer. So I'll wait to set our timer until we get set up. The first stretch is pigeon pose. So you're going to bring one shin down and forward. I'm going to start with kind of the entry level options. You can always bring that back knee in and fold over the front thigh. Next option would be to send that leg straight back, toes, knees, hips pointing down. That's a key point of alignment. But the next option would be that your knee is bent, your shin is angling back toward you, and you can be here. Full expression of pigeon pose, you're going to have that shin more aligned with the knee. So you have that, it's parallel to the short edge of the mat. Still, I want you to keep those back toes, knee and hip pointing down. We don't want to let it pop open. We want to keep that alignment here, and then we fold forward. So find your position. I'll get our timer started. You might be folding all the way forward. Maybe you're on the forearms. Wherever you are, see if you can relax the head a little bit. I want you to draw your right hip crease back, your front hip bone forward. Keep flexing the right foot and find that deep, deep breath. So it is true, you may have heard this in a yoga class before, but that idea to breathe into your hips seems like kind of a foreign concept. But when we allow the breath to deepen so much that the diaphragm descends, it drops down into kind of the lowest position, we do feel that expansion in the hips. So it creates more space throughout the torso. So I want you to feel that here. Feel the expansion in the lower belly. And then soften into the exhale. If you like, you can pillow your hands under your head here. We're about halfway through. You're going to feel the waves of sensation. So the initial response from the body is to tighten, to protect the outer hip, the glutes that are getting the stretch. But as we continue sending the signal of safety and security with the breath, with those long, slow exhales, you might start to feel a relaxation wave where it softens, it lets go. And then before long, you feel that tension rise once again. You kind of have this pattern of intensity and relaxation, especially as we stay in these postures a little bit longer. Just a few more seconds. Take one more huge breath in and slowly let it out. Ever so gently start to lift yourself back up. Exchange sides, however it feels best for you, maybe coming through tabletop, swaying the hips side to side. Then we'll slide the opposite foot forward, come into your pigeon prep on the other side. So again, if your back leg is extended, I want you to keep those toes, knees, and hips of the back leg down. The side a little tighter for me, so I'll be angling the shin in just a little bit. We'll start our timer now. So drop into position, relax the head and neck. Start to refine the alignment of the hips. So draw the left hip crease back this time. Drop the right hip down and forward. You can untuck the toes, just make sure that the top of your foot, the knee and the hip are all pointing down. Flex that left foot. Soften the heart, belly, chest. Breathe. Find those deep, deep breaths here. And as you do so, turning inward ever so slightly, just be mindful and present to anything that arises. As we create pathways of flow through the hips, through the psoas, through the glutes, you might feel things bubble to the surface because we're allowing that stuck energy to move, giving it a way out. So use your breath to metabolize whatever comes to the surface. Acknowledge any thoughts or feelings that come with it. Can you soften the hip bones just a little bit closer to the earth? We're here for only 30 more seconds, so it's about 5 very deep breaths, maybe less. So really enjoy them here. Take your deepest breath yet. Inhale. And exhale, let it go. As you're ready, slowly come up. Come back into our tabletop. This time, knees stay under the hips. I want you to walk your hands forward into puppy pose. Get our timer started here. Then I want you to soften heart, belly, chest toward the thighs. Bring the crown of your head towards the floor first. If that's feeling pretty good, you feel a lot of space in the upper back, you may choose to kind of deepen this posture. So first, send the hip creases up and back. Lengthen the sides of the waist. Maybe you start to send your gaze forward so that you can bring your chin to the mat. Soften the heart toward the floor. And breathe. So if you ever feel that the breath becomes constricted or that it can't flow, I want you to dial it back a little bit. So that might mean bringing the forehead or the crown back to the floor. I want you to try to get your armpits as close to the floor as you can. Feel that opening in the shoulders. You can even come in and out of these different expressions. Bringing the forehead back for a moment so that I can feel that softening of the armpits toward the floor. And then maybe you gaze forward once again. Maybe you're somewhere in between. Draw the shoulder blades down the back toward the hips. Lengthen the sits bones and the hip creases up and back. Curl the tail ever so slightly so that your belly is integrated. It's not just softening, we're not just dumping into the low spine, but it's intentional. We're creating those intentional curves to carve out space. We'll be here just about 15 more seconds. See if you can send the hips a little bit higher, drop the heart a little bit lower. And then nice and easy, start to come out. Take your time. We're going to come into our final stretch, the straddle stretch here. If If you have a pillow or a block that you'd like to rest on, you can bring that between the legs here. I'm going to start our timer. I want you to turn the toes up, hug the toes back toward the shins. Flex the quads by pressing the back of the knee down, and then lift your hips up, turn the pelvis slightly forward. So we've got that anterior tilt, like you're tipping the bowl of the pelvis forward, so that you can feel the front of your sits bones. We'll get our timer started, and then any amount you can walk forward. You might come to the forearms. Wherever you are, release the head and neck, so let it be soft. You might even get a little rounding in the upper back, but I really want you to try and stretch the heart forward, elongate through the heart and chest. Press the backs of the knees down, hug the toes back toward the shins. So if you've been following this particular series, you might be feeling the inner thighs quite a bit. A lot of strength work. So you may feel this stretch a little bit more deeply. But we're here for the full 2 minutes. So with every inhale, I want you to stretch the heart forward. Maybe use your hands or your elbows to draw energetically back toward the body. That'll take the heart, belly, chest a little lower. And then with every exhale, you soften a little more deeply. Keep pressing the backs of the knees in. You should feel the quads fire up, and that'll signal the release of the hamstrings, the inner thighs. Free the neck by shifting the chin side to side. Just a few moments more here. Maybe walk the hands out a little bit further, soften heart, belly, chest a little bit closer to the ground. Feel those waves of sensation coming in and out, just like ocean waves. They sort of peak and then fall. Let's take one more very, very deep breath here. Inhale and exhale. Slowly walk the hands in. Bend your knees, maybe with a little bit of help. Let the spine lift up tall. So you're in this comfortable seated position now, the body filled with breath. This is a great opportunity if you like to sit for a few moments in meditation. Just maybe close the eyes and observe the inner landscape, anything that's coming to the surface, especially after those deep stretches toward the end. Or maybe just paying attention to your breath for a few moments more. I encourage you to stay here as long as you like, as long as you need, as long as you can. But for now, I want to offer my deepest gratitude to you for showing up for this practice, for supporting yourself and your body throughout your cycle, and for letting your body be moved.